Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the first time with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities and the Department of DOR. I know.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I am so thankful and happy that you all accepted our invitation. I know how vital you are to our students who have disabilities, as we live in a world of possibilities. So thank you again. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Esteban, it's all yours.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm just gonna do a brief introduction just to give you guys a little bit of my background and just to give you guys understanding like what my career has been, so you guys know where I'm coming from. Let's see, I've worked approximately 13 years in doing mental health. I provided services via wraparound. I did therapeutic behavioral services where I provided individual rehab. I work with families from Department of Probation, Department of Mental Health, and Department of Children and Family Services. I also worked with the homeless population, the homeless veteran population. And obviously I had worked with individuals who are duly diagnosed, which means that obviously they had substance abuse issues. And then I also worked with the AB 109 early inmate release program. So my job was to work with those inmates that were being transitioned out from the jail systems out into the community. I would go to downtown LA, Twin Towers, and do outreach and communicate to the inmates that were getting ready to get released. Then after that, I ended up transferring my skill set over to the Regional Center, which is, I feel like that was a place where I really was able to grow and expand my knowledge, because, working with all these populations, I really felt like my passion got ignited working for the developmentally disabled, for that particular population. And I started off as a service coordinator. Then later on, I was promoted to be a resource developer, where my job was to address clinical disparities in South Central LA. So my job was to go out and seek out clinical providers, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, just to give you an example, to be able to find providers that were willing to work with individuals from the Regional Center. Then from there, I moved out from LA and I moved into San Bernardino, and then now I'm here at the State Council, okay? And my background is I have my my bachelor degree in neuroscience, psych and bio, and then I got my master's in healthcare administration, okay? So if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to help in any way or shape or form, okay? All right, so now, we're gonna, but before we start, actually, I'd like for Kelly, let's introduce you too, because that way we can make a smooth transition to once I'm done. So if you want to give a little bit of your background and your situation, your history.
Well, good evening. It's not afternoon anymore. My name is Kelly Guillory. I work for the California Department of Rehabilitation. I have been in this field 27 years. I'm not at DOR, but within the field, working with individuals that have developmental, intellectual disabilities, mental health, system impacted youth, just across the board. I've worked in the educational system as well. So I really enjoy this field. It has brought me so much joy to see people grow and really accomplish and meet those milestones. I am a former employee of Inland Regional Center there. I was there for about 8 years. I loved what I did. And then like I said, I worked in the schools, and now I'm here at DOR. My master's is in education with a concentration in applied behavior analysis and autism specialization, as well as psychology. It's a pretty long degree, a lot of different, I guess you can say, minors attached to it. And just really excited. I do a lot of outreach. I really want people to know about our program, how wonderful it is, how we service those that have disabilities, not just intellectual or developmental, but just disabilities across the board. So being able to come over to DOR and work for the state and see the programs and the services and resources that we have to support those with disabilities, it gives me pleasure. It really is. I'm also on the I always forget what it's called, but I'm also on the regional counsel with the SCDD. I always forget what it stands for. Please forgive me. I'm brand new to it, so I'm learning it. And then I'm a chair for the San Bernardino County Disabilities Subcommittee, Disabilities Awareness Subcommittee. So thank you all for having me this evening.
All righty, thank you so much. All right, so let's get this ball moving here, so that way we're not here till 10 o'clock at night, right?
No.
All right, so this is just an overview, just to let you guys know, I am not covering everything. I'm just trying to give you guys significant portions of what it is that we do, okay? So the state council exists all up and down the state of California, okay? The role of the state council was established by state and federal law and independent federally funded state agency. Our vision is for Californians with developmental disabilities are guaranteed the same full and equal opportunities for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as all Americans. Our mission is for the council to advocate, promote, and implement policies and practices that achieve self-determination, independence, productivity, and inclusion in all aspects of community life for Californians with developmental disabilities and their families. Our focus is to empower individuals and their families through activities and systems navigation that teach self-advocacy skills and support self-determination, to work and advance public policy and systems change to help people gain more control over their lives and building capacity in our community and within systems. Our goal is to bring the community together so that we can see what the trends are out there, so that if there's any gaps in certain programs that we're able to figure out whether it's a systematic situation and we need to take this up to legislators and create a policy, or if it's just basically navigating the regional center and having to figure out what policies they're implementing where they're missing a gap in that transaction, okay? So the California's Landerman Act is a core civil rights law protecting Californians with IDD. The Landerman Developmental Disabilities Act is codified in the California Welfare and Institution Code. Landerman Developmental Disability Service Act and related laws are listed here in their most current versions, and you'll find it at this link, okay? I'll make sure I send this presentation to Jilska so she can mail it out to everybody, okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so Latterman Eligibility, what does this mean? This is the people that we work for, they get services through the Inland Regional Center. Okay, so if you're part of the Inland Regional Center, that means you're going to get services for the rest of your life, okay? Or for your family member, they would be getting services for the rest of their lives. In order to qualify for services for the Regional Center, you would have to have one of these 4 diagnoses: intellectual disability, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and autism. There's also a 5th category, which is a disabling condition that are closely related to an intellectual disability or that require treatment similar to that required for people with an intellectual disability. The 5th category is mainly, I mean, from my experience, it's mainly for infants where they suspect there may be a developmental disability, but since they're infant, they're not exhibiting all the symptoms. So what happens is the regional center accepts them temporarily just to monitor their development to see if they exhibit a symptom that would meet the criteria for one of these diagnoses, okay? But in order to qualify for services for the regional center, you would need to be diagnosed with one of these 4 diagnoses that you see here. Okay, and as you guys can see, the developmental, the diagnosis for being classified as being developmentally disabled to qualify for services for the Inland Regional Center does not have a mental health diagnosis, okay? Mental health diagnosis would be like depression, anxiety, ADHD, schizophrenia. I mean, those are mental health diagnoses, okay? But just because you have one of these 4 diagnoses, it doesn't mean that you cannot have a mental health diagnosis, okay? I'm just giving you an explanation for the diagnosis that would allow you to qualify for services through the regional center, okay? So the onset time, it has to originate before the age of 18. The prognosis is for the diagnosis to likely to continue indefinitely, and the severity has to be substantial disability in 3 major life activity areas, okay? All right, the council has 31 members, at least 60% are self-advocates and family advocates, okay? We meet at least 6 times a year. The council work focuses on long-term solutions through systems change. We create self-sufficiency, self-determination, inclusion, and acceptance. and we represent the diversity of California. The council's committees, we have the Self Advocates Advisory Committee, Executive Committee, Legislative and Public Policy Committee, State Plan Committee, Employment First Committee, Administrative Committee, Statewide Self-Determination Advisory Committee, Nominating Committee, and the Membership Committee, okay? All right, the project of the council, Statewide Self-Advocacy Network, is a cross-disability network of self-advocates. It works to develop the knowledge and skills needed for impact, speak up for all people with disabilities, advocate for issues important to all people with disabilities, lead regional and statewide advocacy groups and networks, train advocates in their community to grow the self-advocacy movement in California, and share information about programs that support for people with disabilities. The State Council's Regional Office connect people to needed services and supports, provide information informed about rights and etc. We strive to improve services and supports. We review policies and practices, identify services needed but not available, monitor legislation, and help build capacity. From our experience, whether I was inside the regional center or outside, a lot of the times individuals don't know how to navigate the regional center system. They don't know what services are available, and they don't know the process for acquiring services, because the Landerman Act does regulate how the regional center funds services. So what we do over on our end is we help train the community about these logistics and procedures so that they're informed about how they can navigate the regional center system and also advocate for services, okay? We also help people become part of their communities. We encourage and assist various advocacy organizations and educate the public. Okay, the State Council State Plan, okay, this is what we primarily focus on. There are 6 broad areas with deeper focuses, objectives, and measures per plan area. For example, we focus on helping people do self-advocacy. We focus on help giving the individuals we serve employment opportunities, housing opportunities. We talk about health and safety issues. For example, we do a training for a first aid kit where we have a self-advocate who trains other self-advocates on how to implement that Red Cross backpack. That's a first aid kit. We do early intervention and education, formal and informal community supports. And we also primarily focus on the self-determination program. So what the self-determination program is a program that is set aside from the traditional system. So the traditional system is usually you get like a service coordinator, which is like a case manager. They go out to see the family and their individual, they do an assessment, and then they create an individualized program plan. In this individualized program plan, they cover a whole bunch of, I want to say modalities, like housing, health, medical needs, all that good stuff. And they create this big report to help address the family's needs and the individual's long-term goals. Okay, that's usually the traditional system. Through the self-determination program, what the individual could do is they can hire who their service coordinator is, but at that point, the name changes from service coordinator to independent facilitator. Okay, this program is a whole other situation. I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to confuse you. I just wanted to give you guys a little gist so you guys understand what that's about. Okay, but we are conducting trainings on self-determination, okay? All right, the State Council State Contracts for QA, National Core Indicators. This is where my colleague Matoya comes into play, okay? This is what she does. We do collecting quantitative data on satisfaction, provision of services, and personal outcomes from people with IDD and their families that utilize the IDD system in California. We also use National Core Indicator survey tools, in-person interviews with individuals and proxies as necessary, mail-in surveys from families. The 2021 featured a significant shift to virtual interviews using video conferencing. Obviously, we know why, what happened in 2020. COVID got us, right? So we already know why that changed. We also do validity and reliability measures and testing. So clearly we do follow up on statistical measures just to make sure that we are following trends to see if there's any drastic changes in the way that services are being administered, okay? All right, the State's Council work advocacy, systems navigation, conduct trainings, provide technical assistance, community outreach, collaborate with stakeholders, hence what we're doing today, towards common advocacy objectives, okay? All right, this is how to contact us. Okay, like I said, this is our contact information. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And just to let you know that our office here in San Bernardino, we focus on doing work for 4 counties, which is Riverside, San Bernardino, Inyo, and Mono counties. And for those of you guys that don't know, San Bernardino is the biggest county in the US, okay? So you can only imagine, we go all the way up to the border there with Vegas. I'm with Nevada. Sorry, I'm thinking a little bit past that. Okay, but we are literally right up there. And we go as far north as Mono, which puts us like in Mammoth, near Bishop. For any of you guys that like traveling up there during the winter, it's nice up there. Okay, so these are the 4 counties where we're trying to do this capacity building to be able to unite the community, to be able to educate the population we serve, and in order to help improve systems, like I said, at a local regional level, and also to make sure that whatever issues we're having, that it's also making Sacramento know of what's happening, what trends are happening. Because clearly when you implement a policy, it's in theory as opposed to implementation, right? I'm sure we all can agree that, you know, there may be certain gaps that happen in that transaction. So our goal is just basically to represent these 4 counties and give feedback and build that capacity to help educate the public on what it is that we do, okay? Now I have questions and discussions, and thank you. However, I'm gonna hold off on that because now the mic is going over to Kelly so that Kelly can do her presentation, and we'll save questions towards the end. If you guys have questions directly for me, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'll look in the chat, okay? But just to let you know, I will be putting the link there for you to please answer those questions on that survey, okay? So go ahead, Kelly, it's all yours.
I need to be able to share my screen. I'm sorry about that. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
worries.
Awesome. So once again, I am from the California Department of Rehabilitation and really excited to share about our, just give me one second, share about our wonderful program that we have, not only for adults, but also for students between the ages of 16 to 21. A lot of times, you know, we talk about employment, we only think about as the people we work with, we think about, okay, they're adults, they need to get employed, but we also need to start thinking about how we're going to plan for the future of our youth that we work with as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about both of our case types that we have. And then if you guys have questions, like Esteban said, please say them to the end, and then we will be able to answer any questions that you may have. So let me go ahead and get started. Uh-oh, sorry about that. Trying to move the little pictures out the way. Okay, so who is the California Department of Rehabilitation? So California Department of Rehabilitation administers the largest vocational rehabilitation program in the country. We actually have a lot of other states reach out to us about our student services program, our vocational rehabilitation services, to get ideas. Because we're so big and we serve a vast amount of people, they reach out to us to get information and guidance on how to appropriately provide the services, resources, and supports. Vocational rehabilitation services are designed to help job seekers with disabilities obtain competitive employment in an integrated work setting. So community-based employment, not the traditional workshop or sheltered workshops. We really are promoting for community integrative employment. Excuse me. Independent living services also include peer support, skill development, advocacy, referrals, assistive technology, transition services, personal assistance services. And so we also have connections with the independent living centers. We use different vendors within our local area to make sure that the people have the necessary tools and skills that they need to live an independent life. DOR provides consultation, counseling, vocational rehabilitation, and we work with community partners to assist the consumers and or participants that we serve. So what we believe, this is very important. We believe in the talent and potential of individuals with disabilities. We don't look at their disability, we look at their abilities, their capabilities, and we also help to pull out those things that they don't necessarily know that they have inside of them. So it's very important that we as counselors get to know the individuals that we work with so that we can really hone in on those skills that are already there and help them to better develop them. We invest in the future through creativity, ingenuity, and innovation. We ensure that our decisions and actions are informed by interested individuals and groups. So one thing Esteban had said a little earlier in his presentation, he talked about self-determination. Here, we really push self-determination. I may have a mom and a son come in and say, Mom, well, he needs to go into graphic art, but her son is really into law enforcement. I'm not going to push graphic art if that's not his passion. He may enjoy it. It might be a stress reliever for him, but it may not necessarily be what he's passionate about. So these are the things that we sit down and we really stress that it's person-centered. We believe in self-determination. It's all about informed choice. We pursue excellence through continuous improvement, and we preserve the public's trust through compassion and responsible provision of services. So as stated before, we have two different case types. The first one is student services, also known as PE or potentially eligible. And the second case type is vocational rehabilitation, also known as VR. So for student services or potentially eligible, there are 5 categories that we provide services under. The first one is job exploration. Then there's work-based learning experiences, post-secondary counseling, workplace readiness training, and self-advocacy. And as you can see, just like Esteban talked about, that self-advocacy component is very, very important within the community that we serve. So in career exploration, we sit down with the participant or the student, and we really talk to them about the different careers out there. What's their interest? What really sparked their interest about that particular career? We explore the job market, making sure that the career is going to be something that is worth their while pursuing. Are they going to be able to get employed and maintain employment within that field? Is it kind of like a dying profession, or is it a positive profession? So we really want to look at those things, and we help them to make those decisions. We do work-based learning experiences. They can do this through internships, volunteer work, on-the-job training. They can also get paid work experiences through our grant that we've been awarded. And this is a great opportunity for our youth and some of our adults to get an opportunity to learn different skills on the job. Post-secondary counseling. So most of us, maybe a lot of us here have went to college. Even when we start college, we're kind of like, what do we do? You know, for me, I always share this with a lot of the youth I work with. I went to school for nursing for 2 years. And I saw a cadaver. I was like, this is not for me. So I kind of like wasted those 2 years, but I found out that I really liked helping people. It was a passion that I had. So going into the counseling field, going into the behavior field is where I found that I had a true passion for it. And as I stated before, I've been in it for 27 years. We talk about work readiness training. And so we really help to develop those professional work habits, strong communication skills, time management, social skills, especially for those that struggle in that area of picking up on those social cues, picking up on things that we typically may be able to, but maybe a student or an individual with autism may struggle in the area of social skills, how to engage in conversation or reciprocate a conversation. These are things that we work with our youth on to make sure that they're equipped for the workplace, having an understanding what their employer is looking for, knowing that what behavior is appropriate versus inappropriate behavior in the workplace. And then self-advocacy. And I took this quote from Van Roosen, and I really like what it says. It says, an individual's ability to effectively communicate, convey, negotiate, or assert his or her own interests, desires, needs, and rights. It involves making informed decisions and taking responsibility for those decisions. So we really promote self-advocacy, because as soon as you get into the community, you are going to have to know how to advocate for yourself in the workplace. You're going to have to know how to advocate for yourself in the classroom, in your life overall, even in the grocery store. You have to know how to advocate for the things that you need. I'm not going to go through this part. It's just typically, these are the forms that our students are required to complete with the parent's assistance. But I'm going to go, we also do virtual online workshops with students and adults. And it's all based on the 5 core services that I just went over. And they're live workshops. So it gives the students or individuals that are participating an opportunity to ask questions, engage the students and the staff that are presenting. So it's a great opportunity for people to get the answers that they need. So now we're going to talk a little bit about vocational rehabilitation, VR. And this one is where a lot of the funding and the resources come from. In the student services, we really focus on those paid work experiences. That's our funding portion. But in vocational rehabilitation, this opens the door for us to pay for a lot more, such as training assistance, direct employment services, assessment services. There's a lot of resources that we have under this case type. For the vocational rehabilitation referral process, you can generally go through the front door unless you're on a specialty contract. So if we created a partnership with you and say Esteban says, hey, Kelly, I have an individual that's really interested in obtaining employment, but they don't know where to start, then they would come directly to us and then we would work with them. We would determine if they're going to be short-term or long-term vocational rehabilitation case. And then that's how we would determine where we would put them. We do request a documentation of a disability. However, we as counselors are given the authority to determine if a person is eligible for services. And also they must have an impediment to employment. That is a must for them to be eligible for our services. One really neat thing, because of COVID and just how our world has progressed so quickly, DOR created a VR portal. And with the VR portal, the students and or individuals that are looking for employment, they're able to go in, click on get started, and then it takes them right in. They fill out their information, and within 2 days, somebody will contact them and set them up for their orientation and intake. So this is a great tool that we're utilizing. It actually expands our ability to reach those communities that may not necessarily be able to come in. Maybe there's a lack of transportation. This gives them an opportunity to fill out whatever they need to fill out to get connected to the appropriate office that we have, whatever one is closest to their home. So the VR case type eligibility, there was typically a 60-day waiting period for eligibility, but now we have been instructed to do expedited enrollment. So as soon as we get those cases, they need to be made eligible within 2 days, which is wonderful because the quicker that they get access to services, the more successful outcomes that we get for the individuals that we work with. Once again, eligible disabilities may include physical, mental, emotional, cognitive. There's physical, there's a lot of different disabilities that they definitely can fall under to qualify a person for our services. Like where Esteban was talking about, they have to have an intellectual or developmental disability. This is where DOR is able to expand a little bit more and provide different resources to different groups of people that fall under the disabilities community. So when you're in the VR case type, there is what we call an individualized plan for employment, also known as an IPE, kind of similar to the IEP, but it's an IPE. And so there is a 90-day planning period, but when they're made eligible and they're put into that, once they're made eligible, we move very quickly to get these plans in place so that we can get the individuals to the services at a quicker pace. Like I said, once they have access to the resources and the services that they need, we have more successful outcomes. There's an employment goal required. If somebody comes to me and says, I just want to work, well, what do you want to do? You can tell me you just want to work, but we need to kind of figure out what type of work do you want to do? We do labor market research, as I stated a little earlier, where we want the labor market to be positive. We don't want it to have a decline because it may be very difficult for someone to obtain employment in that particular field. And at the end, the services must be agreed upon between the individual and myself or whatever counselor they're assigned to be successful in employment. Once we develop the plan, and the whole plan is developed based on the consumers or the participants' needs. Once that plan's developed, we go over the plan, they agree to the plan, they sign it, we sign it, then services begin. So here's a list of some of the services that we offer. Once again, employment, direct employment services. It can include assessment services to determine what the individual's abilities are. There's individualized accommodations and services. There's services to help them accomplish their goals, career counseling, vocational counseling, and guidance. It is employment driven. No services until the IEP is agreed upon. There's assessment services, there's on-the-job training, and a really big one, especially for our IDDD population, is the work incentives planning. Where we have the ticket to work, and we have what we call them WIPs, but they're actually called work incentives planners. And they will sit down with the individual and meet with them and go over how much they can make before maybe their Medi-Cal or their Medicare is affected, or how much they can make before maybe their SSI or SSDI is affected. And this is a really important component of our services because it helps a lot of families question, am I going to lose my benefits? So working, this gives them an opportunity to have an understanding of how things may change once they start to work. So we have a closure process. A successful closure is always what we strive for. This means that the person that we've put into employment has been successfully employed for 90 days. And an unsuccessful closure would be maybe we can't locate them, they've requested a closure, their failure to cooperate, and it happens. Maybe there's a medical issue that is prohibiting them from continuing on their job search. So these are things that we would consider to be unsuccessful. But that successful closure is what we strive for. We will work with them to make sure that they have the resources and the services, the supports that they need to be successful in their employment. It's a pretty simple process. They can go online or they can also complete the forms. And I'll send the forms out so that you guys will have them if you know of anybody that may be interested. We have the enrollment form, we have the employment record, health questionnaire, consent to release and obtain information, and the voter's preference form. Oh, this is one of my coworkers that presented this with me, but this here is my contact information. I'm sorry about that. My contact information, it's for Kelly Guillory. And if you guys, I can put this in the chat. If you have questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I will put this information in the chat. The best way to contact me is through email. You can call my work phone as well, but I'm usually out in the field. I work in a lot of the schools and I'm out in the field quite a bit. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to guide you and anybody through the process. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Are you gonna you're gonna also put the contact information in the chat, correct? Yes, no?
Yes, I'm gonna put that in there right now.
Awesome.
Now, I would open the floor for any questions that anybody may have.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was really great.
Yeah.
Listen, please, if you want to type a question in the chat, feel free to do so. If you would like to ask a question, please feel free to unmute yourself. But we welcome your questions. This is a great opportunity. These are great resources. You may know someone, you may be someone. So please feel free to ask questions. Anybody have a question? I have a question.
Gosh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go, Daniel.
So yeah, I actually have a particular question. Maybe an SSI and more for the visual impairment, but anyway, so I just have a curiosity question about the whole work incentives thing. Would that be a good thing to do if I was considering trying a part-time job? Because the complication is that being an SSI, there's certain restrictions on how much you can earn, but the problem is let's say I come to find out that part-time it's not really working out, as far as the stress levels and stuff. I obviously want to dip my feet in the water, so to speak, before I actually commit to anything permanent per se, as far as say maybe eventually going full-time. I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to handle a part-time versus a full-time job anyways, because I've never had a job. I've been on SSI since I was 18. So
if If I may, Daniel, one thing that we have is we call it paid work experiences. We have adult paid work experiences and youth paid work experiences. So you may be a perfect candidate for that because it gives you an opportunity to try out different jobs to see what works for you. Also, you had mentioned about having a vision impairment. We have a whole department that focuses on individuals that have vision impairments. They can be completely blind. Actually, our state director is blind. And then we have another individual that's a part of our executive staff, and he has a vision impairment as well. So, and then I have coworkers in my office that have vision impairments. So I don't want you to feel limited in being able to obtain employment because there's amazing opportunities out there. And it's all about trying. That's why we have those paid work experiences, and even having a job coach. That might be what you need to keep the stress levels down or just to give you a little extra guidance and support. We definitely can provide that as well.
Yeah, because I've never had a job, so I don't even know if I'm gonna, be able to handle the stress that may or may not come with having a job. And obviously I don't want to, go full time yet because I don't even know if how I'm gonna take that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and
that's
those
why
those are real concerns. I think all of us that have worked have those concerns about stress levels, especially when you work for public entity. I mean, any kind of job you work, it definitely can be the stress levels that come along, and you have valid concerns, but that's why it's important you sit down and you would talk with that counselor and really talk about the things that you love. Because if you're doing something that you enjoy and love, 9 times out of 10, your stress levels might be there, but it might not be as detrimental to you if you know that you're doing something that you love and enjoy.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. That was a good question. One of the things I like to say to support what Daniel was saying, one of our earlier Café speakers was talking about being a mental health first aider. She is also vision impaired. She actually worked with not this nonprofit, but another nonprofit where I was executive director for several years, and she did really well. So Daniel, I want to encourage you to try it. And, the only thing you can do is find out through experience. And I think having the paid experience program really gives you a kind of a safe opportunity to just try out. And I think also it helps organizations who want to support people. I know one of the reasons we're excited to have you all here, Esteban and Kelly and Matoya, is that we want to open up more opportunities within the communities that we serve. And so one of the things that we will do is definitely be in touch to find out how you can make some referrals toward us and how we can become more of a destination for some of the people that you may be serving. Okay, any other questions? I see something in the chat room here. Kelly's put in her information and Esteban's added his contact information. But are there any questions?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, so actually I'm interested in, say, if one of your clients came to you and said that they wanted to actually do something independently. Maybe they're into just staying at home and painting, being an artist or a seamstress. Would you help with those entrepreneur opportunities where they can get involved in social media and probably have a platform that way and have support?
Yes, we actually have individuals that are, we call them SMEs, so subject matter experts. I'm learning all this stuff, but they really sit down and help the individual to plan self-employment. We do get a lot of people, especially, we get a lot of individuals that come in and that typical workplace environment does not work for them. So they have to get really creative. How can I generate income? So what they do is they'll sit down and they develop this plan. We have like the micro enterprises, we have people that have LLCs or incorporation, you know, so there are all these different things that they can do, nonprofits. And that we always say the sky is the limit. So we work with them. It's a lot of work, you know, anything going through the state, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of paperwork that's entailed and a lot of requirements that we have, but we definitely will work with them and walk them through the steps to get their business established.
Wonderful. Kelly, I have a question.
I've been inspired. Go ahead, Jessica.
So Kelly, what I see is when we recommend students with the Department of Rehab, the services to enter into the services takes a long time. And then also because of the depression and the anxiety that sets in at the beginning, it is hard for these students. So they fall short. It's hard. Is there data that you're able to pick up and have like a continuum of care so that students are taken care of today?
So my unit that I work in is based in San Bernardino. We cover Riverside and San Bernardino counties. We are the only unit in the state of California that targets students specifically. So I don't know, where are you guys located?
Palm Springs.
Palm Springs. Okay, we cover that area. We actually have a counselor in our unit. I can put you in contact with her because if you're reaching out and referring students over to us, we're going to move very quickly. Sometimes when the old process we call it through the front door, there is a delay. I can't say that it's not, there has been a delay, but with creating the VR portal, putting more mandates on us as counselors to make people eligible within the first 2 days, it definitely has given us more successful outcomes. Like we work with a lot of foster youth, and you know, with foster youth, I have a lot of foster youth on my caseload. You have to be consistent with them. And it's very, very important, like you said, even with the youth that are students that have maybe mental health or whatever it may be, we make sure that we're there as that system of support. We do have big caseloads, but at the same time, we're person-centered. So if I can get your contact information, if you can put your email in the chat for me, I will email you the contact person that covers Palm Springs area. I believe it's Catherine or Jasmine. It's one of the two. I have to ask them, but I can find that out for you tomorrow morning. And then I will connect them with you so that you can make that direct contact with them. And I think we have a Palm Desert office as well.
Yes, you do.
And we'll make sure, we're going to make sure we'll be on that one.
So Daniel, do you have any questions? Because he's
somebody did have their hand raised. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I don't know.
I was needing the name too, please. I don't get his name.
I'm sorry.
The person that gave me the phone number,
Esteban
Ortiz. Esteban Ortiz.
Esteban Ortiz. Mm-hmm.
And
Lottie, go ahead. This will be our last question.
Yes. Well, it's like a finishing question. So as we are a lot of people can't really understand what other people are going through. So I want to know like what we can do as an organization, individuals or small business to make things more accessible. Because many times we can't understand how people actually do these things or approach these things. Like if you have any advice for us, like what we can do to make anything better, like how we present ourselves, how we present things. So if you could help us.
We actually have training. Our business specialists work with local employers to train them on working with individuals that have disabilities. You can even reach out to counselors, myself, and we can talk about making sure that it's not only accessible for like wheelchairs or people that maybe have vision impairments or hearing impairments, but just understanding, like Matoya said that she has a son that's on the spectrum, understanding how to work with individuals that have autism. Maybe sometimes, you know, they may come off and we're like, well, they're very blunt in a lot of ways. I can't say everybody, but a lot of our students with autism may come off very blunt and may say what's on the top of their head. And people might be taken back by that, but training our community, giving them the information and educating them is what's going to give you more successful outcomes. And that's what we do. When I work with community partners, I let them know, hey, this individual coming in, these are the things that we're going to be dealing with. That's what we do. And thank you for asking that. I mean, feel free to reach out to me as well. And I can connect you with one of our business specialists, and maybe they can do some training as well for those that may need it.
Yes, thank you. I think we all should know it. I mean, this is how it should be. So thank you for giving us the option.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, one more thing, it would be great if we can get information about what it is your organization does.
Yes,
the
that would be
details of it, so that way we can also network that in, right? Because I know we're also we also do represent Palm Desert, Palm Springs. And we want to be able to create those connections. And just to give you guys an idea, I came across an extensive health workforce report. And I always like to communicate this to our community partners so that we are aware of what the disparity looks like out in the Inland Empire. I came across a 2019 report, and I think that's a good report because clearly that's way before the pandemic happened, and I'm sure things have gotten worse before they've gotten better just because of all the logistics that came to play. But I came across a report that was done with EDD for Riverside and San Bernardino counties. And it was a health workforce disparity. And just to let you guys know, the statistics that I came across in this report in 2019, on a national average, you have 90 physicians per 100,000 patients, which puts a physician to have approximately 1,111 patients per physician. Okay. Now, in the Inland Empire, it is 34.5 physicians per 100,000. So every physician has roughly 2,998 patients per physician. That's the disparity that exists in the Inland Empire. How does that affect us? Well, think about it. You got to go see a doctor, right? That just gives you an idea of what that's like, especially for the population that we serve, right? Now imagine when you start trying to make those referrals out for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, mental health services, counseling, and all these logistics that come into play. It just gives you an idea of what work we have ahead of us, right? So it's just good. I always like to tell that information to our community partners so that we know that there is a major health workforce disparity in the Inland Empire, and it's something that we would have to brainstorm and work collaboratively in order to get that addressed.
So true. So true.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to say the person's name. Is it Zubair? Oh, he had his hand up.
I have just a quick question. According to the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 503 requires that 7% of the people, either in a company or an organization, have to be people with a disability. Is that something that is also, or how do you enforce that, or how do you realize that?
It's all up to a person that if they disclose it, and at the end of the day, it's up to them if they want to disclose that they have a disability. But I would say quite a bit of the staff that we work with, we have a lot of people that have invisible disabilities, visible disabilities. We work with a lot of people that do have that, and either way, and one thing about DOR is that we're big on employing individuals with disabilities. Like I said, our state director, our boss that's in that building back that looks like it's behind me, he's visually impaired. I believe there's 3 executive staff that are also visually impaired. We have a team manager in our office that is quadriplegic. So we are very big on inclusion and inclusivity because we make sure that we're employing the people that we would serve. I mean, it would only make sense for us. You know, some people have invisible disabilities that they have not disclosed to the entire team. And some, like I said, have visible. So we really are big on hiring those with developmental, intellectual, physical, emotional, all of that. We are really big on hiring individuals from that fall within that category.
Yeah, thank you. Just a follow-up question. I know we're late, but what are you doing about the education? Because there are a lot of myths out there about people with a disability. You find people who really say that people with a disability are suffering. People with disabilities really, they feel no pain. Some people, like, their witness in court is not really reliable. So how are you doing that towards educating the population, not really to put these people in those categories? Sometimes it's not that, oh, people with disability, they cannot do anything. Why would somebody be denied to give a witness that they are not reliable? Then when you look at sexual harassment among the people with the disability, it's always high. How can you educate the court really to understand that?
Meetings just like this, community partners just like us. We are the educators. If we have a disability or we work in the field of disabilities, we are the educators. It is our responsibility to educate people. One thing about our paid work experiences, it gives the individuals that we work with an opportunity to show their skills. And in reality, when you really look at studies of employment, those that have disabilities tend to be they're more employable in a sense of they're more dependable. They're going to follow through with what you tell them to do, and they have more successful outcomes. I'm going to use, and then I know we have to go, but there's actually 2 young ladies that we had on our peer mentorship program that we created in our unit. And one went to a local university. She participated in our peer mentorship project. She just graduated. She's 23. She has her master's. She just graduated and was offered an assistant director position in like advisory or something of the university, of a pretty big university within our area. Another young woman, she's going to a Cal State school, and she's going into her master's program and was just hired on with the state of California as one of our like clerical, but she's going to become a rehab counselor. So when they were able to see, they know that these individuals have disabilities, but they saw their work ethic. They worked hard, just like all of us work hard to maintain our employment. Once again, we are the educators. We are the ones that are going to get the word out there. If you see something going on that's not right, say something. Educate. You can, if you have a community partner, or you say you frequent a store, talk to the people. Like, I love Stater Brothers. Stater Brothers has an amazing program. They hire a lot of young people that have disabilities. So there's a lot of employers out there that are becoming more inclusive, but it goes back to education. If we're allowing that stigma to continue to grow, we're going to stay stagnant. But you definitely see where there's a shift, where people are more willing to hire individuals that have evident disabilities. And they're actually doing amazing jobs. And I think Matoya was asking about starting their own business. There's a local business that has like a little coffee shop truck kind of that travels around in the Inland Empire. I thought that was so amazing. I can't drink coffee, but I would buy it just to support. So I think it's amazing. So those are things that we, as people that work within this community, it's our responsibility to educate.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you. I'm going to answer Esteban's question before we go off the air. We Are One United is here to really help the community. Right now, we are particularly focused in the North Palm Springs area with the cities of Palm Springs, Desert Hot Springs, Cathedral City. We look at 3 things. We look at mental health. We really want to do a lot of work in that. We also we have what we call our social enterprise employment model. So we are looking for putting people to work and helping people start doing these jobs. And finally, we really want to do violence intervention and prevention. We recognize we want to create a safe place for folks to work and live. So this has been spot on, this discussion tonight. I would say 2 things. Number one, just based on the interest and the questions I've heard tonight, We certainly would love to have you feel free to come back in not too distant future. Number two, we definitely will look forward to how we can work with you with our programs and all of the things that we're planning, and also learn more about how we can be more supportive of you and this population. I want to again thank each and every person for being here tonight. I don't know about anybody else, but I am excited and inspired by all of the people who showed up, and by the information that was shared here tonight. On behalf of the team, Joska, Kwana, Zubair, myself, Vladi, we want to thank you guys for your time and for your generosity in being a part of this. And what we really hope, again, is that this is just the beginning of a journey together, and that you will feel free to call on us in any way that we might be able to help you better serve this population. Again, on behalf of the team, I'm the CEO, John Epps. I kind of was trying to be the low-lying fruit today and just hang in the background a little bit. Didn't work out quite by my plan, but I couldn't sit back. You guys are just way too, it was just way too inspiring. So I think every one of you who is here, and again, we have these cafes every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. And if everyone can be as exciting as this, and so far we've been doing very good, we look forward to having you feel free to drop in and learn more about the work that we are doing. And please refer us to your friends and family and anyone you think is just ready to get that kind of great information that we saw tonight. So again, on behalf of everyone here, I'd like to again thank you and say good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.